Welcome to EPH 456, where we seek to understand the truth. John 17:17, Jesus said, "Thy word is truth." This week we continue our lessons in the book of Job with part 6. Hope you enjoy. Yes, sir. We can get this thing going. So, Heavenly Father, we just thank you for yet another Wednesday. We thank you for life, health, and strength. We thank you for so many things, and especially this time of year, Lord, where today it is Passover. And so much history in Passover, from the great Exodus to the ultimate gift, which was your son. So we thank you so much for your gift. We do not even understand how much we actually need it. So we ask, Lord, that you would impart to us your spirit today so that we could understand what you have for us to learn. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so over the last, it's probably been almost 2 months, we've been working on Job. So today we're going to get through a few more chapters. And I'm just going to get right into it because I got some stuff to cover. I have some thoughts. You guys may have some comments. We want all the things. All the things. We want all the things. So, as the briefest of recaps, we've talked about over the last 6 weeks, and I've recapped this each week, so I'm not going to do it as in much detail. As previous weeks, we've talked about the book of Job's aspects. We've talked about an outline within the book of Job. We talked about the book of Job's, the whole story prologue, and the unique aspects and insights that gave us. We talked about Job being attacked and losing everything and being told by his wife, his life partner, to curse God and die. And, I was thinking about that a little bit as I was writing this, and even before, just kind of trying to jump off on a side note. But so I was listening to a minister do a study on this, and he was talking about Adam and Eve and their relationship really quickly. And he said in 1 Timothy 2:14, it'll be in the notes, so you guys don't have to look it up, but it says, "And Adam was not deceived, but the woman Eve, being deceived, fell into transgression." And what that verse meant, again, that's 1 Timothy 2:14. What that verse meant is that Eve was actually tricked, but Adam, he knew exactly what was going on. And he knew exactly what he was doing when he bit that apple. And it's like, to me, that takes me back, because just think for a minute how different our world would be if Adam would have said, "Sorry, babe, you're on your own." Just think about how different Job's story would have been, moving back into Job, if he would have listened to his wife. Curse God and die. Yep, no problem, babe. And then he goes after it. It's just something to think about. I don't know. Some things, things like this makes me wonder. I mean, God sets this up like he set it up for a reason. He set the man-woman relationship up the way he set it up for a reason, and for reasons that we don't fully understand. But what we can honestly put faith and trust in is that there is nothing that happens with God on accident. Nothing. It's all purposeful. All right, so getting back to Job. Sorry, I had to chase that for a minute. So Job's friends arrive, and for the last 3 weeks, we've talked about Eliphaz and his arguments, Job's rebuttals, Bildad and Zophar in the previous 2 weeks. And for the last 3 weeks, we've been going over arguments, their opening arguments, they're stating their cases, Job's rebuttals to them. And during this whole back and forth, his friends, the accusations of it, the commentary, Job's rebuttals, And within all of those things, we've noticed, to me, a couple key points. Number one, their attacks on Job are extremely personal. So it's not as if they're attacking Job's doctrine, if you will. They're attacking his person. And to me, that's a big difference. It's one thing to debate doctrine back and forth because we have a variance of opinion on what the word is saying. It's another thing for me to attack you personally with my comments. And the second thing that we've noticed and we pointed out is that the attacks as we're going along from Eliphaz to Bildad to Zophar and then now back to Eliphaz tonight, the attacks are increasing in their intensity. And lastly, our guy Job is hanging in. He's there's been several times where he got close, but he's remained a faithful servant. So last week we concluded with Zophar's arguments and Job's rebuttal and closing of opening arguments, our courtroom setting, if you will. And Job addressed all three of his friends as a group. And based on the group comments that you guys gave me, I was going to sum this up, but you guys wanted me to do verse by verse, so I'm going to continue verse by verse with round two of Eliphaz's argument. So last thing, interestingly enough, the order in which these friends appear doesn't change. So it's like Eliphaz went first, then Job responds, then Bildad, then Job, then Zophar, then Job. As you get to the second phase of this, it still remains the same structure up until there's another character that comes in, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it in the end. So let's go ahead and begin round two, or Eliphaz's round two. He's about to open up. And as we do this, I have a request to ask you. I want you to imagine that you are in Job's position. I want you to put yourself in Job's position. I want you to imagine that this is a conversation that you're having with one of your friends and how one of your friends is speaking to you. And there's a reason why I'm asking you to do this. So keep that in mind as we go through. So with that, we're going to go and get started. So Job 15, verse 1. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, should a wise man answer with empty knowledge and fill himself with the east wind? Should he reason with unprofitable talk, or by speeches with which he can do no good? Yes, you can cast off fear and restrain prayer before God, for your iniquity teaches your mouth, and you choose the tongue of the crafty. Your own mouth condemns you, and not I. Yes, your lips testify against you. So let me take a pause right there. So in this 1 through 6 section, I want you to notice, before we get too far down here, how Eliphaz has taken Job's rebuttals. After his initial argument, Eliphaz has said, okay, should a wise man answer with empty knowledge? So he's kind of taken what he says and he's starting to flip it. Notice the condemnation and the personal attack that he comes in there. He's like, your own lips condemn you. I don't. Your lips. So the spinning, as we used to call it in the sales world, spin, which was, I can't remember what the acronym stood for. But basically what spin selling taught you, well, the basis of it was Effective communication, and this is something that all effective communicators know. This is something that we all can learn from. So effective communication is speaking, then listening. Okay, and this is different from speaking and then pausing so that you can speak again. Right? Which is why I say the best communication and the best communicators are absent of ego. See, our ego or our pride tricks our mind into thinking that we have all the answers. And this is kind of it's extremely unfortunate, and it hurts us tremendously, more than we even know, because it clouds our ability to perceive a situation from all angles. Because we believe we're right. The possibility that we're wrong doesn't enter into our mind. So we've failed to see the whole perspective of what happens if I'm wrong. We miss all that. And it's only through humility can we honestly address a situation and determine the best outcome. See, if you're going the way, let me say it like this. The best decisions happen when your discernment is high, level is high, your judgment will be better because you'll be able to understand what you're looking at, to be able to accurately assess the situation. But when your ego is involved, you lose sight and you develop this tunnel vision based on your pride, influenced by your pride, if you will. And so that throws your discernment off because you can only discern what is in your vision. And your pride and your ego narrows your vision. You can't take a step back and look at the entire situation. So as a result, you make a judgment call based on your tunnel vision, not over the entire situation. And we see that with Eliphaz. Dude is not considered what Job has said at all. He's already had his mind up. If you go back a few chapters, if you look at, he was very, very heavily influenced by the vision. And he's looking at the outcome of Job's suffering. And he's saying, you know what? 1 + 1 is 2. I see this one. I heard this one. I saw this one in my dream. And I see this in the physical. Job is guilty. And anything in Job that he says is not going to sway Eliphaz at all. And it's almost as if Job is talking and his words are not penetrating his friend's ears. They're just listening, or they're just hearing or pausing to talk so that they can talk again. And that is not effective communication. Verse 7. Are you the first man who was born? See, this is what I'm talking about. Already shots. Or were you made before the hills? Have you heard the counsel of God? Did you limit wisdom to yourself? Or what do you know that we don't know? What do you understand that is not in us? Both the gray-haired and the aged are among us, much older than your father. Are the constellations of God too small for you? And the word spoken gently with you? Why does your heart carry you away? And what does your eyes wink at? Meaning, what are you closing your eyes to? That you can't see this. That you turn your spirit against God and let such words go out of your mouth. What is man that he could be pure? And who is born of a woman that he could be righteous? But if God puts no trust in his saints and the heavens are not pure in his sight, how much less man who is abominable and filthy, who drinks iniquity like water? Okay. So this part of the conversation, we we can all learn from. So it's interesting that you three are on the deal today, because I tell you, man, there's so much more who could have. Yeah, I'll leave it there. So this part of the conversation, though, is something that we can all learn from, because this right here is something that each and every one of us do with our arguments, and we've all been in them. So what Eliphaz is doing here, we have all done. He starts off with a sarcastic shot. So if you look at your relationship with your friends, or you look at your relationship with your significant others, okay, most of the time, or a lot of the times, when you happen to be in a spat, it starts out with the sarcastic shot. As if you're looking at the word, he says, "Are you the first man to be born? And were you made before the hills?" Now, obviously, both of those are rhetorical questions built on sarcasm, which will inflame Job. And we can identify this because we've all done it. Example. All of us have been into an argument with your significant other. And all of us have used these words. Phrases like, "You never do this." Or phrases like, "You always do that." See, these two phrases right here, just considering those two, are sarcastic phrases that will 100% inflame the person you're trying to talk to. 100% of the time. And you know I'm telling the truth. And because it's built on exaggerated sarcasm. And it's automatically construed as a personal attack on my person. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys. You already know. When it starts like that, the next 2 hours are filled with just unproductive conversation, yelling, and some hard feelings. You already know. This is how it goes. And I illustrate this to say this. If we pay closer attention to just this story on Job, we would learn to be more effective communicators. Just simply by using his friends as examples of how not to do it. Right? Verse 17. "I will tell you, hear me. What I have seen, I will declare. What wise men have told, not hiding anything received from their fathers, to whom alone the land was given." I'm going to go back over that. "And no alien passed among them. The wicked man writhes with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden from the oppressor. Dreadful sounds are in his ears. In prosperity, the destroyer comes upon him. He does not believe that he will return from darkness, for a sword is waiting for him. He wanders about for bread, saying, where is it? He knows that a day of darkness is ready at his hand. Trouble and anguish make him afraid. They overpower him like a king ready for battle. For he stretches out his hand against God and acts defiantly against the Almighty, running stubbornly against him with his strong and bossed shield. Though he's covered his face with his fatness and made his waist heavy with fat, he dwells in desolate cities, in houses which no one inhabits, which are destined to become ruins. He will not be rich, nor his wealth continue. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a second. Let me get through these. Nor will his possessions overspread the earth. He will not depart from darkness. The flame will dry out his branches, and by the breath of his mouth he will go away. Let him not trust in futile things, deceiving himself, for futility will be his reward, and it will be accomplished before his time, and his branch will not be green. He will shake off his unripe grape like a vine, and cast off his blossom like an olive tree. For the company of hypocrites will be barren, and the fire will consume the tents of bribery. They conceive trouble and bring forth futility. Their womb prepares deceit. All right. So let me go back through there. That was a lot of verses, but I want to get through them for the sake of time. So let me start back out on 17. So this guy starts out after he tells Job what he says, I will tell you, hear me. Now, personally, I'm not sure I like this dude's tone. It sounds a little like if we were to say, did you not hear what I just told you? Or did you not just hear what I just said? See, that type of stuff is escalating the situation. That's not effective communication. That's the opposite of that. And then he continues on with what I have seen, I will declare. Which is another way of saying, I know I'm right. I've seen it. Or I'm right and I can prove it. And I have to say, this sounds about like every argument that I've gotten into with my wife for 21 years. 21 years tomorrow, actually. So I looked this up and I want you guys to check out these stats. So 93% of emotional communication is nonverbal. 93%. Okay? So here's the breakout. 55% of that 93% is body language. Meaning facial expressions, gestures, things of that nature. 38%, which makes up the rest of that 93%, is the tone of your voice, the pitch or the speed of your delivery, or the volume, how loud or soft your tone is. That makes up your 93%. Only 7% is the actual words that you say. 7% out of 100% is the actual words. Everything else is communicating through tone, body gesture. Unbelievable. But this is why patience and self-control are key fruits of the Spirit. Because it's our flesh that lacks self-control, which contributes to us communicating in aggressive, condescending tones. So if I was to break this down, you guys know I'm right. If I was going to break this down, I just look at my own personal arguments. If I was going to critique my own self, which I try to do, if I look at my own personal arguments, they typically start out with the predetermined feeling that I personally have. Okay, that's a fancy way of saying I'm mad about something. Okay, I've already made up in my mind that this is exactly how this person has intended it. This is exactly why they did it. And I know they're wrong and I'm mad about it. Before we even open up our mouths and get started with the whole communication stuff, I'm already worked up because I've already had predetermined feelings about it. Right? I mean, so this would mean like typically something or someone set me off. And now I need to tell them about it. Whether it's my wife, kids, friends, whatever. Somebody set me off and now I got to let you know. Okay? And until I say, and this is a key point, until I say whatever it is I felt, or as the old school OGs used to say, until I get this off my chest, right? Until I say what it is I feel, I'm just not listening. Like, if I'm being honest, until I get whatever I want to get out because I'm mad about it, I really don't care what the other person is saying. I am not objectively listening to them. And if you honestly looked at the way you communicate, I think I'm pretty spot on. It's almost like you're seeing red and you're automatically looking at it like, yep, it's this way and this is how it is. And I don't care what they say. They wrong me and I'm in and this is where I'm at with it. And until I get this off my chest, everything they say, I'm just rebuttal after rebuttal after rebuttal. And mostly with me talking over her or him and them talking over me. And nothing is getting accomplished. We're just talking straight past each other, right? Because I know I'm right. See what I'm saying? It's an ego thing. So 17 again. I will tell you, hear me. What I have seen, I will declare. What wise men have told, not hiding anything received from their fathers, to whom alone the land was given. This is this guy's entire opinion. Look at the absolutes he's doing. And no alien passed among them. Now, we know that isn't true. We know there were some aliens that passed through. Come on. The wicked man rides with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden from the oppressor. Now, take a look at that verse, that last verse, verse 20. The wicked man rides with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden from the oppressor. So, if my guy Job is writhing in pain, which we know he is, he's hanging out in sackcloth, ashes, and boils from head to toe. We know he's in pain. So then, what is Eliphaz really calling Job? Well, he's calling him wicked. Because if you just told me the wicked man writhes with pain all his days, you see I'm over here writhing in pain. That's a passive-aggressive shot that's saying I'm wicked. How else can an innocent man take that? How else can any man take that? I mean, it's almost like sometimes when we communicate, it's not necessarily what we say. Sometimes it's how we say it. Just something to think about. Verse 28, when he says, he dwells in desolate cities. He's talking about the same wicked man here, not Job per se, in houses which no one inhabits, which are destined to become ruins. He will not be rich, nor his wealth continue, nor will his possessions overspread the earth. So, what does this mean, he dwells in desolate cities? What does that mean? Well, a desolate city is a city with nobody in it. So that means that if you're telling me I'm a wicked man, you're saying that I'm dwelling alone in houses. And then you followed up when you said in houses which no one inhabits. Okay, but wait a minute. Last month, before all of this evil stuff happened to our guy Job, he was rich. And his house was full of people. In fact, if we go back to Job 1:3, which I will right quick. Job 1:3 it says, also his possessions, word gets in all the sheep and the camels and such. Then it says, and a very large household. Okay, so a very large household meaning it was full of people in it. So now I fast forward it to chapter 15 here, and you're telling me that a wicked man dwells in desolate cities, and he's in a house where no one inhabits. So what are you really trying to say here? He's saying that, to make it plain, a wicked man dwells alone. Job, you were good, and your house was full, but now you are alone. So that means, if I'm adding this up, Job, you're wicked because wicked people are alone. That is the logical piece of it. It's what he's saying through his tone and his comments, right? And then he continues on when he says, the flame will dry out his branches, and by the breath of his mouth he will go away. All right, so if I'm reading into that, if a man is described as a tree, okay, what are his branches? Well, it's children. So why is my man Eliphaz bringing the dead children back into this? Again, passive aggressive shots, right? In his communication. Let him not trust in verse 31. Let him not trust in the futile things, deceiving himself, for futility will be his reward. So basically, you're just calling him stupid. I mean, I'm not reading into this. I'm just interpreting what this guy is saying. And to be honest with you, I mean, if I'm Job, dude, I'm all the way worked up. If you put yourself in Job's place, like when we started this conversation, just think about if somebody said all this to you, how would you feel? I mean, I think emotionally would be an understatement. And naturally so. Like, who could blame you? But my point in that whole exercise is, do you see how easily it is for us to get fired up? I mean, I'm riled up just reading this stuff and breaking it down. I'm feeling it for Job. This was, I don't know how many thousands of years ago. But again, my point in doing that is you have to see how much self-control is needed. Because our flesh is naturally out of control. Period. It has none. And if you look at the world, they'll tell you, hey, do what you want to do, whenever you want to do it. What control is that? That's not control. That's the very essence of the lack of it. In any case, so all of you guys are some TikTok players, I would imagine. I stay off social media for the most part just because, which is why I'm a horrible YouTuber, because I don't know. I don't care a lot about the validation of others, I guess, probably to my own detriment. That's just not how my brain works. It's just a weakness I have, I guess. But all of you guys have seen TikTok videos where, there's being violence happening. Somebody's getting hit or they're in an argument. And, this is what passes for entertainment nowadays. But I'm going to change all that for you. I'm going to change all that. The next time you see one of these videos, the one where somebody slaps somebody or somebody's beating somebody up or pushing them or, swearing at them or whatever the case. The next time you see somebody doing that, I want you to pause the video and I want you to look at their face. Tell me what you see. It's scary, man. It's scary. You want to see what a demon looks like? Pause them and let me know what you see. Job 16. Then Job answered and said, I've heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. Yeah, such an obvious point. Shall words of wind have an end? Or what provokes you that you answer? I also could speak as you do. If your soul were in my soul's place, I could heap up words against you and shake my head at you. But I would strengthen you with my mouth, and the comfort of my lips would relieve your grief. That's deep. Though I speak, my grief is not relieved. And if I remain silent, how am I eased? Man, he said a lot, man. Miserable comforters are you all. Tell me that isn't the truth. After going through 4 rounds of these knuckleheads, I mean, miserable comforters are you all. I mean, verse 4 again. Just look at Job's reaction to this. This lets me know the wisdom of this dude. When he says, I also could speak as you do. If your soul were in my soul's place, meaning if I was in your shoes, I could do exactly what you were doing. I could heap up words against you and shake my head at you. But I would strengthen you with my mouth, and the comfort of my lips would relieve your grief. Just listen to the contrast in his tone. Notice his selflessness. I will strengthen you with my mouth, which would relieve your grief. I mean, concerned about others versus yourself. See, what I've learned, and to be honest, and am still learning, this topic tonight kind of hits home for me because, I like to think I'm a pretty effective communicator, but sometimes that's not the case. Matter of fact, more times than I care to admit, I guess. But when you don't care about who is right and you only care about what is right and making it right, this is how you talk. And this is what you say. And see, for me personally, I've fallen into this trap before. Even with some of y'all. There's things that I know that are biblically sound, that I know that some of us haven't come to grips with yet. And that's okay. But I have to ask myself, is it better for me to prove to you that I'm right on this particular subject, knowing that you may not be able to personally handle the truth? Or is it better for me not to be concerned with proving I'm right and just continue to teach and let the Holy Spirit work on you? See, this is what I'm talking about. When our ego is in the way, our discernment is off. And it leads to our judgment being off. All of us can point out to a time where either we were right or somebody was right, and somebody was right and they just had to prove it to you. And they may have been right. In all fairness, they may have been right. But if you look at the situation and you put yourself back there, because they had to prove it to you, and there was I don't know, how do I say this? There was a point that they made to say, hey, I'm right and this is what it is. That naturally made you upset. Would have naturally made all of us upset. And it turned you off anyway. So what was you being right? What good did that really do? Because I was mad at you before about something else, or we did have conflict before, but because you quote unquote proved you were right, now I'm mad about something else when it comes to you. So what good did it really do? Nothing. It didn't do nothing. It just shifted the conflict around. And that's what I'm talking about. When we look at conversations and things like that, ego, man, it's a horrible thing. And it stands in the way of effective communications 100% of the time. Humility is always the best option. Always. I mean, Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goeth before a fall. Everybody's heard that. You don't have to be a Christian to hear that. Everybody's heard that one. There will be a time to instruct and a time to correct, which will be in a time when you may be ready to receive it in your hearing. And when you're ready to receive it, that's when you see the best results. See, personally, my goal in all of this Wednesday night study is it's not to be right. Okay? It's just to educate. And I would say the next time, and this is advice I would even give to myself, or I have to give to myself because I'm guilty of it as well, is to continue to consider this. You know, when you're going into the next situation where we want to prove that we're quote unquote right, what does being right have anything to do with anything if the outcome isn't good? Doesn't matter. No, not really. Verse 7, 16:7. But now he has worn me out, I bet, and you have made desolate all my company. You have shriveled me up, and it is a witness against me. My leanness rises up against me and bears witness to my face. He tears me in his wrath and hates me. He gnashes at me with his teeth. My adversary sharpens his gaze on me. They gape at me with their mouth. They strike me reproachfully on the cheek. They gather together against me. God has delivered me to the ungodly and turned me over to the hands of the wicked. I was at ease, but he has shattered me. He also has taken me by my neck and shaken me to pieces. He has set me up for his target. His archers surround me. He pierces my heart and does not pity. He pours out my gall on the ground. He breaks me with wound upon wound. He runs at me like a warrior. I have sewn sackcloth over my skin, and laid my head in the dust. My face is flushed from weeping, and my eyelids is the shadow of death. So, verse 7 and 8, Job is basically saying here, when he says, but now he has worn me out, you've made me desolate all my company, you shriveled me up. He's basically saying, listen, man, y'all are wearing me out. Period. Y'all have gotten on my nerves. You've got me to a point where it's like I'm starting to get extremely frustrated with you guys. I'm actually past that point. And if you look at 9 through 14, starting out when he tears me with his wrath and he hates me, and he goes on to 14 where he says he breaks me with wound upon wound. He runs at me like a warrior. When he says he runs at me like a warrior, it means he's just constantly on me, right? So if you notice verse 9, let me take a step back. 9 through 14, I just want to point out that Job is going between his friends and God. He's giving him perspective on, he's saying, you guys are doing this, and then he shifts the focus from them, and he's comparing his struggle to the relentless pressure that he feels spiritually, is what he's saying. So if you look at verse 9, when he says he tears me in his wrath, Job is talking about God. But then he switches in verse 10 and he says, they gape at me with their mouths. So Job has clearly recognized his adversaries here, and it doesn't say if this is his friends he's talking about or if this is other people passing by, observing this whole deal. And then verse 15 through 17, which starts out with, I have sewn sackcloth over my skin, and which concludes with, although no violence is in my hand, my prayer is pure. So this is very interesting. He's explaining his emotional and his physical status with 15 through 17 when he says, I have sewn sackcloth over my skin and laid my head in the dust. My face is flushed from weeping. I mean, he's getting to his last leg here. And on my eyelids is the shadow of death. That's his status. But then 17, although no violence is in my hands, my prayer is pure. So, and then 18 through 22, O earth, do not cover my blood, and let my cry have no resting place. Surely even now my witness is in heaven, and my evidence is on high. My friends scorn me, my eyes pour out tears to God. Oh, that one might plead for a man with God, as a man pleads for his neighbor. For when a few years are finished, I shall go the way of no return. Yeah. He's in a rough situation here. You have to feel for him a little bit. Um, he's clearly been battling. Um, it's interesting. I've heard Christians talk about they've been spiritually attacked, and a lot of them have. But sometimes what we feel is a spiritual attack is really self inflicted with ego. I'm just saying. That's just the way it goes. Um, Being spiritually attacked is rough. Um, I can't say that I've ever really been like that. If I'm being honest, a lot of the things, the adversity that I would go through are self-inflicted. And, I do myself a disservice. I don't need any help, I guess. Verse 17, or chapter 17, is Job's prayer. As you can see in 22, he's very, very, his spirit is waning. You can continue to see as the pressure ramps up, he's getting a little lower, a little lower. I'll read it real quick. My spirit is broken. See what I'm saying? My days are extinguished. The grave is ready for me. Are not mockers with me? And does not my eye dwell on their provocation? Now put down a pledge for me with yourself. Who is he who will shake hands with me? For you have hidden their heart from their understanding, or from understanding. Therefore you will not exalt them. He who speaks flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children will fail. But he has made me a byword of the people, and I have become one whose face men spit. My eye is also grown dim because of sorrow, and all my members are like shadows. Upright men are astonished at this, and the innocent stirs himself up against the hypocrite. Yet the righteous will hold to his way. Man, that's an incredible statement right there. And he who has clean hands will be stronger and stronger. I'm going to touch on verse 9 here in a second. But please come back again, all of you, for I shall not find one wise man among you. Like, this dude is asking for more. Did you catch that? Please come again, all of you, for I shall not find one man among you. Wow. My days are past. My purposes are broken off, even the thoughts of my heart. They change the night into day. The light is near, they say, in the face of darkness. If I wait for the grave as my house, I will make my bed in the darkness. If I say to corruption, you are my father, and to the worm, you are my mother and my sister, where then is my hope? There is a very faithful statement right there. If I say to corruption, you are my father. That's exactly what the mission was. And to the worm, you are my mother and my sister. Then where is my hope? As for my hope, who can see it? Will they go down to the gates of Sheol, which is the underworld, or Hades, if you want to call it? Shall we have rest together in the dust? All right, so he said a lot. But if you go back to verse 1, Job is concerning of this chapter. Job is confirmed what his status is. I mean, he's ready to go. The torment has gotten to him, understandably so. I mean, he's talking about in this chapter, his eyes are basically cried shut. I mean, man, it's crazy. I have to say, hitting on revisiting some of them verses 13 or 14 and 15. I think about what anybody could do to endure this persecution? What would it take? And the only real analogy I can think of, which is probably a silly one, but it's running. It's running. So if you've ever ran a lot, then you'll know what I'm talking about. See, when you run, your mind goes somewhere else. The day's events, issues or problems you're thinking of, your mind wanders. But your feet keep moving. It's almost like your mind tells your body to run, and then it just sets your body on cruise. And you just put one foot right in front of the other without any real conscious thought. And when I was writing this part of the lesson, it just made so much sense to me. Because it's like, why do you do that? Why do you continue to put one foot in front of the other? Why? Because it's like you to do it. You see, if we look at this thing from just a mental perspective, a mental / spiritual perspective, what do we know about Job? We know that Job worshiped God. We know that he trusted God. God says that he was faithful. In fact, if you go back to the first chapter, he says, Job, whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright and feared God and shunned evil. So you know he trusted God. You know he obeyed God. You know he served God. All of the things. You know he feared God. He'd probably done this for so long, his mind was on cruise. Just like the runner. I mean, it's almost like going against God was foreign to him because it wasn't like him to do it. See, what you have to understand about the conscious, there's three aspects to your mind. And I've explained this in a couple years ago, I guess, since we've been doing this. There's the conscious, there's the subconscious, and then there's the self-image. The conscious mind, you know what that is. The subconscious mind, you know what that is. The self-image is the part of your mind that a lot of people don't focus on. But that's the part that tells you you're you, which is why it's called the self-image. Okay? I drink coffee. So when I pick up a coffee cup, my mind goes, yep, it's like you to do that. And you do it. Right? It's just the same thing like if you were driving. That's why you don't have to learn how to drive every day. Because your self-image tells your mind it's like you to drive. So you do it. That's the reason why habits are so hard to break. Because your mind is telling you it's like you to do this. And now you have to consciously train your mind. No, it's not like me to do this. You see what I'm saying? So Job must have trusted God, obeyed God, served God, feared God to the point where it was just like him to do it. Further illustrating my point, it's like Job would have been faithful at this point so long until his self-image would have told him it's not like you to not be faithful. So when adversity hit, he just couldn't go against God. Because to him, in his mind, going against God was going against his own self. I mean, I'm just looking at this from a mental / spiritual perspective. We all know self-preservation is a real thing. But it makes you wonder. You've all heard the stories about Christians dying for their beliefs. It's like, what would make a person just say, you know what? Kill me. And the only way that my mind can rationalize this is because they are just so in tuned that it's just their self-image tells them you just can't go against God because it's just not like you to do it. So their mind tells them, I can't do it. I can't go against God because going against God is like going against me. I don't know what that is. They can't go against God because God is one with them. They in him. Just like John 17. Just like the prayer that Jesus, the unity prayer, when he said, you and me, I and you, they and me, they and you, and even those believers after them. They and me, I and you, that we would all be one. We would all be one. Because you can't go against yourself. You just can't. It's so hard to do. Right? And when I think of this relationship that Job would have had, it forces me to evaluate my own personal relationship with God. You know, if my life was threatened and self-preservation kicked in, what would that look like? Would that look like this? Would that look like Job? I don't know. I don't know. Got a long way to go. Got a long way to go. Thank you for watching, and may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another.